Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of crEATe. Today I am making chicken stew with cumin. This is a very fast, paleo-friendly recipe. I'm starting off by cutting the Chinese cabbage into slices. Paleo-friendly because there's bean sprouts in the dish, which is actually not paleo, but I guess once in a while it's okay. Next up, I am cutting the bell peppers into strips. Of course, taking out the seeds first. And then I'm, like I said, cutting them into strips. Also, I just have to mention, because it's in the description below, it says 2 to 4 people that this dish serves. It's 2 people if you have no side dish with it, but if you maybe want to make some ginger chips with it, that would also be fine for 4 people. That's why it says that in the description. Again, this is one of the faster dishes, which is easy to be made after coming home from work. And I would not have this on my table if I had weekend and hours of time to cook. This is more of a hurry, fast dish. Next up, I'm peeling the ginger and I'm cutting it very, very fine. So first I go with slices and then I'm pretty much chopping it as thin and neat and fine and small as I could. After that, I am peeling 1 clove of garlic and also smashing it, and then, which helps with the peeling, by the way, and then also cutting it and chopping it very, very fine. And the next part is very important to remember, at least for me, since I'm a clumsy person. I need to wear gloves, at least 1 glove, for when I cut and deseed chili. I'm usually not remembering that I cut something that is hot, and then I put my hand in my eye or at my nose, and you know how it goes, right? So I do have a big packet of latex gloves in my kitchen, and I just need 1 because I'm only touching the chili pepper with 1 hand, and I'm making sure that I'm using my other hand for the knife only. So I'm cutting up the stem and then I'm halving it and taking out the seeds as well as the membrane. And by that I mean as much as I can. I want some heat in the dish, so I'm leaving a bit of the membrane in. Making sure that I don't have any seeds anymore. On my cutting board, I'm cutting the ginger into small slices, and I'm saying ginger when I mean chili. Gosh, sorry, I mean the chili. Cutting it into thin slices and then adding it to the same bowl with the other veggies. By the way, when I'm cooking, I'm separating the ingredients by the point that I add them to a dish into different kinds of bowls before I go over to the stove. Last, I'm cutting the chicken breasts into strips. And that's also one thing. I'm just too lazy to take another cutting board, so I make sure that I cut the chicken or any other bird the last when it comes to preparing all of the ingredients. It just saves me some time and space on my cutting area. So now that all of that is done, I'm heating up a wok pan before I add the olive oil. It's about 2 tablespoons and the pan is freaking hot at that point, so be very careful when you do that and have kids around or something. Make sure that they cannot grab that very hot pan. So I'm letting the oil heat through before I swirl it around a bit, and then I'm adding the chicken. And I'm stirring the chicken inside the wok for 5 minutes. and let it all cook through and get slightly browned. I want to make sure that the chicken is not too dry in the end, because it needs a bit longer in the pan. So I'm only browning it so much. Next up, and by the way, I'm keeping it on high heat pretty much the whole time. Next up, I am adding the ginger, the garlic, and the chili, just stirring and mixing everything well. I'm just having it sit for maybe half a minute before I add the peppers. And again, with the peppers, I am stirring it pretty much all the time for another 5 minutes. It's okay. Oh, by the way, I'm adding the cumin as well before I add the peppers. I just remembered. So once you have that lovely smell of the cumin and the chili, add the peppers. It's about a minute. And then stir the peppers and all of the other ingredients for about 5 minutes. And maybe the last minute or so, I'm not stirring anymore. The last step is adding the Chinese cabbage and the bean sprouts, as well as the honey and a bit of salt. The non-paleo version of this dish is made with soy sauce and chili sauce, and I found that by having a bit more of the chili in the dish anyways and adding that 2 tablespoons of honey, you can pretty much achieve the same taste in the end. And it's not having as many chemicals and whatnot and sugars in there in this particular version here. Once that's done, I'm just letting the cabbage and the sprouts heat through. If you want to go really, really paleo, you could also leave out the bean sprouts and maybe have another kind of cabbage, or just more cabbage or more bell peppers. That's pretty much the same thing. I stir again, and I'm reducing the heat to medium. And then I'm going to let the dish sit on the stove for another 5 minutes maybe before serving. And that pretty much is that. Thank you very much for watching. Any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to see you next week with a new lovely recipe. Give it a try. It's very, very yummy. Goodbye.